Welcome to episode 12 of the No BS Pagan podcast with our guest Bjorn Ekdahl from the Haminya Foundation. So how are you doing, Bjorn?
I'm fine, thank you. I just recorded a video for the upcoming course, and I'm fine. A bit tired, but I'm fine. I'm happy to be here. Pleasure.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to have you on. You've been a very popular guest, so
I've heard. That's nice to hear. Very nice.
yeah. Okay, so I think Tina wanted to ask you about shamanism first of all.
Yeah.
I do, and it is something that I wanted to ask in the first podcast too, but we just didn't get to it. And my main question is, where do you think this originally started? Because I mean, we can maybe make the argument that it comes from the same root as religiosity, but it serves a completely different purpose at the end of the day. So where do you think that distinction between shamanic practices and religious practices, where does that originally come from? What purpose did it serve?
Big question, but a good one. I'd say that shamanism is de facto from the beginning of everything, from the beginning of mankind, because before we even knew what religion and spirituality was, we still had some kind of magical approach to nature and to life, where we wanted to be able to affect and influence our own lives and our surroundings, and we wanted to survive, obviously, and we wanted the best possible conditions, etc. So mankind has always tried with magical what do you say magical procedure or mode to affect and influence your life without gods. And that is what magic actually is. And I think that's where, as far as I've been able to trace this, shamanism goes back to the ancient North Eurasians, who are actually our ancestors even before any Indo-Europeans, etc. This is a long time back. So for example, when yeah, for a long time back, when people saw that a seed fell in the ground, they saw that at the same time it was buried in a sense, and at the same time you had life coming up, sprouting up from that seed and that plant. And what people started doing was to, for example, put their dead kinsmen, they put them in the ground because they thought, if we do so, they're going to grow back up again. They're going to come alive again by planting them, basically, because they had seen nature doing this. So they kind of based their magic and quote unquote spirituality on what they saw in nature, what nature did. So that's kind of I would say, I don't know if I'm answering your question right, but yeah, I think as long as we've been human beings, we've had some kind of shamanism. I know you wanted to ask some more about that, but okay, I'll leave the word to you again.
Well, this is a bit of a stranger question, really, but I want to know your opinion about it. I once read a statement saying that we as humans, when we experience the uncanny valley, means that somewhere in our evolution, we had a reason to be afraid of something that looked human but was not. Do you think that in any way has to do with these shamanic practices?
Well, why not? Absolutely. I mean, it's always at the same time with me, but because at the same time, we want everything to be anthropomorphic. We dream about people. So I mean, and we depict everything as humans. It was an old Roman who said that if horses were to draw their gods, they would draw horses. And that's also what we do. We so at the same time as that we might be afraid of human-like or anthropomorph beings, we also love them and we are very interested and we depict everything as humans. But definitely, I mean, if you see something that looks a bit like you but not completely, then of course you would definitely fear them and you want to stay on the right side with them, or you want to be friends with them, quote unquote. And so yeah, that's not something I have studied, but my spontaneous reaction is that yes, definitely. Did we have some more questions? We did have some more questions about shamanism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there is a lot of contest about whether there is a European form of shamanism that is not the Sami or Sami, how you pronounce it. And is there?
Yeah. So that, again, that depends on how you define shamanism. I mean, first of all, shamanism is not an Indo-European or European word, so
No.
in that sense, no. But the functions. So I actually looked up the common definition of shamanism. So shamanism is a religious practice that involves a practitioner interacting with the spirit world through altered states of consciousness to direct spirits or spiritual energies into the physical world for the purpose of healing, divination, or to aid human beings in some other way. That's the main definition of shamanism. And if we go by that, then we definitely do. I think the debate stems from the fact that if we look through all the Indo-European branches and all the way back to the Proto-Indo-Europeans, there isn't really exactly the same role or function or figure or person, etc. They had several different. They were very different in their roles and their offices, so to say, and so I think that's where the problem arises. But if we go by that definition, we definitely do have shamanism. I will, for the listeners, I will give some examples. I have some notes here from my own thoughts. So the first Indo-European spiritual texts we have are the Vedas, the Vedic scriptures, and they were written down by rishis, so kind of a seer, and they composed these hymns through divine inspiration, and they had visions and communicating with the deities, and this is very akin to shamanistic practice. We also have among the Vedics, we have the ritual consumption of soma, the drink, the sacred drink, which also altered your state of consciousness and allowed you to experience visions, etc., and do extraordinary things or extra-human things.
Like the berserkers, for instance. That would be a form of a shamanic practice, in essence.
Absolutely, yeah. We also see use of cannabis, for example, among many Indo-European peoples as a source of happiness and some kind of a liberator was given to people to help them get over grief and find happiness, and they also danced to become an animal. We have among the the Celtic Druids, they also employed trance states. We have Orphism among the Hellenics, which was a religious movement or mystical religious movement where they also had shamanistic practices such as rituals for spiritual purification, initiations, beliefs of the soul's journey and transformation, etc. We have the Roman festival of Lupercalia, which is a wolf festival where you basically turned into a wolf. That's where the werewolf phenomenon comes from. We have the Sibyls, the Sibyl at Pizia in Greece, the oracle who sat on. They actually do a lot of. They've done a lot of studies on that. The fact that maybe she was sitting on like a source of gas, so there was nature gas coming up from the rocks. So that's why she actually got high. They don't know, but so this oracle, she also had these ecstatic states and gave prophecies, etc. And the Balts, the Baltoslavics, they had shamanism, such as divination, symbolic communication with spirits and nature. And we, of course, have Norse and Germanic Seder. That's another chapter, maybe, but for example, that the practitioner held a staff and entered an ecstatic trance in order to be able to interact with the spiritual world. I think the Germanic, like the Germanic mirror of that was called Veleda. So yeah, so again, all the functions are definitely there. I think why you say that, or why you ask that question, is because we don't have one single character throughout the whole Indo-European world, so to say. So and if we go all the way back to the Proto-Europeans, we don't really see one and the same character or person performing all these things. But we definitely do have shamanistic practices. We can't say anything else than that.
Yeah, and of course we've lost so much information through Christianity that
Absolutely.
those are we know about some practices, but in reality there was much more that we have lost to time.
For sure. For sure. And it was forbidden. I mean, for example, the expression to knock on wood comes from the fact that the Christians forbade us from doing these shamanistic journeys to talk to tree spirits. And instead, people started saying knock on wood when they touched the trees. So the expression we use today is actually a shamanistic expression that they used instead.
Why, in your opinion, did this become forbidden? Why was it such a problem for people to have their personal practices like that?
For several reasons. First of all, because if we talk about magic, which is the definition is that you can do something spiritual or something really big without God being involved. That was one of the reasons why they didn't like it. They were like, they had this expression of extra ecclesia nulla salus, that you can't be saved, or you can't do anything without the church, without God. So that's one reason. Also because they couldn't control it. They didn't have control over people's spirituality and contact with nature, spirit, gods, etc. That's another reason. I think it was a lot about fear, that they couldn't control people who were in contact with the spiritual world without the clergy.
And how you explained shamanism before, it was to, well, in a broader sense, it was to perform a service to your tribe or to your village, to help them, aid them. But you think it was unheard of in the time to people to employ these practices for personal gain, or would that have been a big taboo?
You mean if people did it for their own sake?
Yes.
Oh yeah, they did. We know that for sure. They did shamanism and these spells, etc., for things to grow, that they were going to find fish. For example, when they were out fishing, they performed shamanistic journeys to like talk to fish spirits so that the fish would come to them so they could catch all the fish. They did these practices to for the harvest to grow, etc. So yeah, they definitely did. It wasn't just for selfless reasons. Maybe that's also one of the reasons why the church didn't like it, because they could do it for themselves, and then the church couldn't control taxes and stuff like that. So maybe that's another reason.
And what would essentially the difference be between a shamanic practice and witchcraft?
That's a very good question. Maybe because nowadays, or for a long time, witch has had a very negative connotation. Witch stems etymologically from to know, the knower, someone who knows. So it's actually, speaking of the Vedas, the scriptures, Veda and witch has the same, they are cognate. They're cognate. This is the same root. And and that means to know, or those who know. Same thing with druid. So the wid, the suffix of wid is the same word. So it used to have a very good connotation, but that's also something that changed with Abrahamism and Christianity. Yeah. So I'm not the right person to answer what a witch is. I just know that wizard, Veda, witch, Wissen in German and Dutch too, I guess, or is to know, Wissen, Veta in Swedish. So yeah, that you have the wits, etc. All these words stem from the same root. So it used to be something very, very, very positive. The druid means the knower of the oak. It used to be something very, very positive, but it isn't anymore. So maybe there isn't any different. Maybe today I would say that a witch is someone who works a bit more for him or herself, while a shaman might work more for the tribe or the group. Maybe that's just a guess, but that's my spontaneous reaction to it.
I think originally it probably would have been, you know, the same thing, but over time we lost the knowledge of the practices. And in particular today, there's this trend of women calling themselves witches when all they do is waft a bit of sage in their home every now and then. You know, they've lost the knowledge and the practices. So I would say that, you know, witch or wise woman, shaman, you know, they have some similarities that put them together. But in the modern
That
day,
is also what you mentioned here is important, because I reckon a lot of people nowadays, they actually come to paganism through some kind of a new age witchery. I'm not trying to be act nasty to witchcraft, but there's a lot of crap out there, unfortunately, and it's also quite dangerous for people to enter something that they actually don't know anything about. And imagine, for example, that you hold a string and you want to burn someone, so you set the string or the cord on fire in one end. If you try to hex someone or curse someone, the thing is, what you do is that what you also have to understand is that this string or cord will burn all the way back to yourself, because you can't just burn a thing in just one end. So and that's something that people don't understand, and they might start in the wrong end. And so it's when it comes to witchcraft, I hope that a lot of real witches and knowers of these crafts step up and teach the right things, instead of people just stumbling upon bad things.
yeah, shamanism in particular, you can pay someone $1,000 to go away for a few weekends. Then you get a nice little certificate that says that you're a shaman. In reality, we know that that's not true. There are a lot of charlatans. I was lucky enough that I actually had a really real teacher for a brief period, and he tried to put everyone off it. He said, this is a dangerous path. When you're given the power to really make a difference into people's lives, you make yourself a walking target for everything that is dark and evil out there. You'll have the tools to protect yourself, but those entities will attack you in any way that they can. And there are some people out there, and they will take anyone on as a student if they have the money. They don't ask them about their backgrounds. You know, have you got unhealed trauma? Because one way that these entities get to you is through your own darkness and trauma that is unhealed. So there are a lot of people out there that are really unethical and not practicing it in the right way.
Yeah, and if we once again go back to our ancestors, I doubt that a so-called witch who did a lot of bad things and didn't really know what he or she was doing, I doubt that they would live very long among our ancestors, because they wouldn't like that at all. So
Yeah,
to say the least.
you're right. Into the bog with you as a sacrifice.
And how would this person be chosen? Would they have to show a particular talent for it? Or would the shaman himself, the current shaman, go on a sort of vision quest, for lack of a better word, to let the spirit world help him? Who should be the next one?
That's also something that's differed a lot among the Indo-European tribes and peoples. So I can't give you one single answer for that. But as it with everything with Indo-European culture and spirituality, I'd say that, I mean, nowadays we've lost these teachings, we've lost the role models. We're going to talk a bit more about that later, but we've lost the schools, we've lost the people who know these things, and good role models, etc. So that's why people also try to do these things themselves and without any good education. And they they name themselves shamans or witches or everything. The best answer here is to say that someone, the so to say, the chosen one is he or she who has performed the best, no matter if that's for priests or shamans or Seidr or the vulvas, etc. The ones who actually practice this and performs the best, they would be, because, for example, with high priests or other offices, it was always not, it was never yourself naming yourself to that office. You would never give yourself that office. It was always the tribe or the kingdom or whatever it was, giving you that honor and that that office based on the fact that you were the best. Because aristocracy is another of the most important values within Indo-European culture and spirituality. So aristocracy obviously means those who are best. So those who are best do this. Those who are best with something else, they do that.
Yeah. Nowadays you have people on Instagram calling themselves shaman. I was always taught that you can never give yourself that label. It's up to the people that you're serving.
Yeah. On the other hand, I mean, I always say that the best way to be a priest is to act like one. So to learn, practice, and continue learning forever. So, but obviously, no, you can't just go out and take an Instagram course and say that now I'm a shaman or now I'm the high priest of Athens or something like that. It's it's ridiculous.
Yeah, very much so. Have you got any more questions that you want to ask, Tina, about shamanism?
Not right now.
Okay. So let's move on then. Now I wanted to ask you to tell us all about this ancient practice of sitting out.
Oh, wow. Okay.
First of all,
That was
can you please pronounce the word?
utiseta.
Okay.
Utiseta. Or you can also say sitta ute. That means to, yeah, basically to just sit out. I mean, this is part of the shamanic or the vulva tradition, even though it wasn't just the vulva who did utiseta. It was anyone could do it if you had been taught how to do it. Yeah, I think you have to be a bit more specific there in this question because there's so much to
Okay.
say. But
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I'm doing the sitting out practice for the Haminya Foundation. I'm going to report back, what it felt like, what I experienced. So perhaps you could tell us then what the purpose is and why should you do it in the first place?
you should do it to grow. Everything is about growth and is about growth in paganism. You should do it to get to know yourself, get to know your link to your true self, to get to know your link to nature, to the spiritual aspect of everything. And you can also do it to get to know, to find out certain really important questions and answers you need to grow and to take the next step, or to do something good for people around you, or if there is something you need advice on that you feel you can't get from anywhere else, you go to the spiritual realm or to the crossroads of that spiritual world. So you do it to gain knowledge and insight that you don't think you could get from people around you.
Okay. So essentially you're going
It's a
to,
it's a it's a sorry it's a vision quest, a way
yes.
of seeking advice and guidance from spirits, and certainly also from the ancestors.
Okay. Ancestors and the spirits of the land, the nature spirit.
Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
all kinds of spirits, all kinds of advising spirits. We in Swedish we call them rådare. They give advice.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
is
So
So
there a chance that you might encounter a spirit intent on giving you bad advice? Is that a possibility?
yeah, why not? I mean, yeah, that's a good question too. Absolutely. I mean, they're all out there. There's definitely tricky spirits. There are bad-minded spirits. I mean, just like among people,
Mm.
there are all kinds of beings. So yeah, definitely. And then maybe it's up to you also to go with your inner, what do you say, discernment, to know what is right and what is wrong, and also maybe you go by a consensus of what all the spirits or all the advice you have received. And maybe if you see that something sticks out a lot, then maybe you can count that out and ignore that advice maybe. But yeah, definitely, why not? It's that's definitely possible.
so so the person takes themselves off into the wilderness,
Yes.
just a place that is maybe feels powerful, or so it doesn't have to be a burial mound. It can be another place in nature.
It can be anywhere, but an important aspect here is that, again, in European spirituality, uh, the liminality, the border to your own inner chaos and external chaos, the borderland, the liminality is very important. You have to, so to say, go through your own wilderness to find order and find advice. So you need to go somewhere at the threshold or the crossroads between chaos and order, or wilderness and home, or the sacred space, so to say. And you need to go somewhere where you are not really comfortable. you need to be a bit outside your comfort zone. But it definitely doesn't have to be a burial mound, even though that's often what we hear. But it doesn't have to be that.
Okay. So not your back garden then. Somewhere that you're not comfortable
You
with.
could you could do that, but I mean the whole purpose here is to actually get outside your own comfort zone, to because it should also be where you are a bit uncomfortable, a bit afraid, where you have to challenge yourself, because only through sacrifice we can also receive something.
Yeah.
So we have to make some kind of effort to also receive something.
Yeah.
If you have an animal encounter, a close animal encounter while you are doing this, would this have a special significance, or would this animal have a specific meaning to you when you're doing that?
Yeah, not any animal. But if you clearly feel, it's just, a lot. I see a lot on social media, people writing like in these groups, like, "Oh, I saw a raven today. What does that mean?" It's like it doesn't mean anything. It means that there's a raven. There are birds everywhere. But if you truly feel that this means something, this I remember one time there was this huge heron bird that it almost touched my face. It flew by and it almost touched my face. That was just when I had moved back to Sweden. And I felt so clearly that was a message from Freya for me to actually stay there, because I was about to actually move back to France. I couldn't make up my mind. But so my answer there is that if you clearly and truly feel that this is something special and not just an animal being there, then yes, it has significance, and it might also be a spirit who has taken that shape at the moment. So yes, it might mean a lot.
Great. So let's move on then to some of the questions that people
Yeah.
were asking. So the first one is that someone asked that they can't really get past the fantasy stuff within mythology. So like the dragons, the giants, people turning into horses, that type of thing. Did you have any advice for that person?
Um, yeah, hopefully. I remember when I saw your question, the person had written about Dungeons and Dragons, the role-playing game, and I found that very funny, because my spontaneous reaction was that, isn't it rather Dungeons and Dragons that has a mythology vibe, the other way around, actually?
Yeah.
So, but I perfectly understand this person. It isn't very easy in these times to interpret and understand these things, and take, maybe even take them seriously. And that is simply because our society, our mindset, our context is so different from what it used to be. So it's hard for us to, I mean, mythology is simply, it's almost like a text, or like a book of science. Our ancestors tried to make sense and explain what was going on around them in nature phenomena, um, try to understand themselves, try to understand our existence. And they did this with metaphors and analogies, etc. We don't speak the same language as them, with the same connotations. Um, so it might be hard for that reason too. It's also, I mean, the myths, they are also very often they're about, for example, the creation myths. They are about something that is so far back and so alien to us. I mean, how much can I take in and grasp about the creation of the universe? Very, very hard. And our ancestors tried to explain these things with metaphors, um, and to make sense of them, and also as a way of, what do you say, to pass this understanding on. Um, this mythology is also based on a tradition that we might not really no longer be part of. So that's also one of the reasons why it's really hard to make sense of it. We've also when we demystify the world and we made a distinction between spirit and matter and secular and spirit, when we demystify the world, we also made it even harder to understand these things, the myths, etc. Because the spiritual way of explaining the world and existence, it doesn't really make sense to people who live in modern society when we, or where we distinguish between spirit and matter. So I think my advice right now is to try to read the myths for now, metaphorically, and also try to find new interpretations of the myths, like in books or films or whatever channels or formats, etc. Because I mean, these myths have been told and told and retold over and over again in all formats and channels, and there are so many other newer interpretations of these myths that you can start there, because it might be easier to take in a more modern interpretation, and then maybe go backwards. For example, if I watch an animated movie or even a painting and I know it's not real, I can still learn from it. You can still learn from it, even though you can't really take in that it would be real. But try to read them as metaphors for now, and then watch modern or listen to or read modern interpretations. That's my advice.
Good. Thank you. Okay, so another person asked or said that they had been having problems on their spiritual path, and they wanted to know, where are the enlightened druid schools of today? We definitely need helpful mentorship, a social institution such as an authentic mystery school where you can go and ask questions about these things.
And that's a bit what we talked about earlier, that all these things are gone, and they are gone for many reasons. And that's also why it looks the way it does today, that people are directionless, and they do I mean, it's natural and it's human to be spiritual. That is a part of being human. We are all on a quest. So I perfectly understand that people want to look, they are on a quest. But we don't have these role models, we don't have these mentors, we don't have these gurus, we don't have the druids. People aren't really in contact with truth, with their true self, true values. That is because of that there are, maybe I shouldn't say none, but close to no healthy institutions nor true leaders, or role models or mentors, simply because it hasn't been in the interest of society for millennia. There are no incentives. It's not in the interest of society and our context to have these institutions. An even bigger problem is that not only do we lack these institutions, we also lack parents and people in general who know these things and have this knowledge. It has to start from the back, even before school, etc. We need good parents and relatives. It takes a tribe to raise a child, as they say. This is where we need to start. People need to educate themselves and practice their spirituality and be the role model until we have these institutions. We can't just sit and wait for institutions to pop up, because they won't. if we don't do it ourselves. So in all this purposelessness and directionlessness, there is unfortunately all kinds of frauds and know-it-alls out there serving people who are on this quest. A lot of crap, nonsense. Not all that glitters is gold. And also on the so-called, a lot of the so-called pagan online community also teaches more or less Abrahamic beliefs, but they've just put, I think we spoke about this last time, that they basically teach almost like Christianity, but they've just put new names on it. So even though they call it paganism, it isn't really, because the context is the same. The glasses you wear are the same. And these so-called teachers, they have forgotten to take off those glasses, and they actually, do you say an unfavor? We have an expression in Sweden called bear favor, when you do someone a favor but it's really bad for them. However, I mean, the Haminga Foundation and our upcoming platform, membership platform, aims to become one such authentic high-end academy and institution for you to learn and grow and to shape future spiritual leaders. That is a tall order, but I can, and we're not there, and it's going to maybe take several generations to get there. But I can honestly say that we already have so many testimonials saying that there's nothing like it out there compared to the Hamia platform, where we have, where you also are going to give a master or several master classes. We've recorded one, and in addition to that, we offer courses, master classes, documentaries, events, community, etc. So that's something I, of course, advise you to do. This person here to sign up for the newsletter on harmonia.foundation/membership. Again, we're not we're not claiming to be one such academy or institution yet, but we're aiming for it, and we're striving. We're doing our best to offer authentic Indo-European spirituality.
Yeah. I mean, that was why I asked you on the podcast initially, was because I came across your Instagram profile, which led me to the Discord server. And I was just blown away by the information on that server. And it's real, authentic. It's you answered all of the questions that everyone has, historically backed up. There's no like flowery nonsense, made up crap. So yeah, I can definitely vouch for the foundation. It's fantastic. So how do we spot fake gurus and charlatans?
I didn't hear that, but what did you say? How to?
I asked you how can people spot a fake foundation or charlatan or guru?
Good question, because I'm biased here. I'm recommending my own platform, so that's a good question, and it's a relevant question. That can be a very hard thing to do. I think the problem is that when a spiritual leader has very, very firm and excluding answers, they might either be a fraud or actually be very, very right. So it can be hard to discern if a person is right or wrong, so to say. And I think I often say that we're all pagan by instinct. I think that we need to go, once again, we need to discern by using our gut feeling, our inner, our sixth sense to begin with. To okay, what do I feel here? Because that's very often, almost always, right. The sixth sense or the gut feeling. So I mean that's not a very good advice, but I think that's where you need to start. And also maybe if they're trying to sell you something straight away without showing you any knowledge or giving just small hints, and then they want you to buy something. That's also a very bad sign. I mean, I have released podcasts and videos for years and years, hoping that people actually notice and realize that these are authentic things. What else can we say? Maybe Tina, Fiona, do you have any? How do we discern what's right and wrong?
Lofty promises are always a
Yeah.
bad sign. You can never make guarantees with somebody else's spiritual journey or development. It's up to the individual. So if somebody comes in and props himself up like, I can make this happen for you, I can make you this, I can make you do that, they're lying. They're just lying. And some
again,
people are very good liars.
And again, to always educate yourself, more and more knowledge, and when you realize then that, but this person said this, that doesn't rhyme or align very well with Indo-European spirituality in general, doesn't sound very good. That's one way also of educating yourself, and you can see these patterns that if someone just talks about blue unicorns, that doesn't rhyme very well with Indo-European spirituality. So that's also a way of discerning.
Yeah.
And then I honestly, I don't think we can protect ourselves completely from these people. What I can do and what you can do and other people who actually want to be true leaders and mentors, we can only do our part. We can only offer authentic education and facts, and then actually trust that people have this gut feeling that this is right and this feels right, and so we can only do so much. We can only do our part. I can only offer what I do offer. If people don't want to listen to that, that's fine. They always say that you have to find the guru, so the guru doesn't find you.
Yeah.
I think that's actually a good advice, that the guru doesn't go out to find you. That's actually a very good advice, that because if you notice that someone goes after you to drag you in and to make you pay, etc., then there's something fishy about it, because it's you who should finally find your institution or your guru or your teacher or your mentor or your role model. That's actually a good advice. You
Yeah.
have to do the work first.
Definitely agree. So another person asked, I would like to know if he knows more about the goddess Hel, since that comes on my path from quite some corners now. From the Scandinavian point, I would like to know more, since I know a bit about how it was in Friesland and the honoring of Hel.
I think this person, am I right that this person asked about Hel and Holle, Frau Holle?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. First of all, it's important to state that Hel and Holle, they are two completely different goddesses. They are not the same goddess, not at all. Hel or Hela is a death goddess, while Holle is an earth and fertility deity. The etymology of their names also differ. Hel, the word Hel stems from Norse and Proto-Germanic Helan and Halio, which means to cover, to hide, or to conceal. So the name basically means she who covers or she who conceals. This word is equal to the Germanic name for the death realm, Halio, which initially meant that which covers you or that which conceals you. That's the same meaning as the Greek Calypso, the entity Calypso, and the Vedic Sarva. They have the same etymology. They're cognate. Calypso also literally that's a verb initially, meaning I will conceal or I will hide. So again, they're cognate. it all falls back on, or comes back to, the Proto-European death goddess Kolios. Kolios means the coverer, because she dragged you down with a noose down in a hole, and she covers you with earth when you're dead. So the death realm among the Germanics was called Hel, and it was positioned in the north, which is, among the Germanics, is the direction of the dead. And they said that this realm, it was the way there goes downhill. So this is what the Christians mistook for being punished in a hell below earth, going down. So hell actually is the Germanic death realm, but not at all the way the Christians interpreted it. So the description of hell and the goddess and the death realm mirrors the Proto-European one exactly, with crossing rivers of oblivion, bribing the guardian dog, etc. And then we have Holle, which stems from Huldas and Hulda, which means something like loyal, faithful, kind, mild. My grandmother was called Hulda. So it doesn't relate to Hel at all. She was Holle. She was originally a spirit of the place, a nature spirit or land spirit, associated with earth, fertility, and helpfulness. And she had a huge cult among the continental Germanics there, and that's also, I think, why she mentioned Friesland, etc. And she actually got her name from the Huldras, the spirit, some spirits of nature or spirit of the place, and she was then actually mixed up with Hel. So that's where the misconception comes from. She's rather Holle is rather a reflection of the goddesses Nerthus or Fjorgyn among the Norse. So a fertility and earth god. I wouldn't say chthonic, but an earth god. Hel, she's more of a chthonic god or goddess. I hope that helps a bit.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Okay, so on to our last question.
Yeah.
And the person says that they get overwhelmed with rules around rituals and they become nervous, like they're going to do something wrong. And they also asked if you would have any advice on doing rituals with children, and what
Mhm.
age would you suggest is a good age to start?
Mhm. I perfectly understand. It is quite a lot. We once again come back to the problem that we aren't not naturally shown and taught these things by authentic role models and mentors, etc. And we don't have that tradition, and we don't have that natural practice. Indo-European peoples have de facto always had a lot of rules and guidelines, and I understand that that might frighten you. They even had special priests who interrupted the rituals if something went wrong or was incorrectly said, etc. And at the end of the rituals, they had, do you say piacula or piacular? Piacular, like reparatory offerings to apologize for everything they possibly had done wrong. So yes, there are a lot of guides and guidelines and rules and frameworks. The reason behind this is simply that trial and error over the millennia had given well-proven and well-attested ways of doing things. So our ancestors had simply learned what worked and what didn't, and so why take the long way if you can take the short way and something that works? If you ask someone for the way to New York and they tell you just go whichever way you want, then it would take you a long time to get there to New York if you'd ever go there, come there at all. So these frameworks and rules, etc., are for simplifying and facilitating that we actually reach the spiritual realm. Now, it also depends. Her question also depends on what kind of ritual is performed. I think you said she was also asking for a good structure. First, maybe I should say that we must distinguish between public ritual and private or practice. I think that's where a lot of people go wrong and where they are afraid or frightened or overwhelmed, because in the European spirituality, you separate, you distinguish between, you make a clear distinction between public and private practice. In the private sphere, you are your own priest. You decide how you worship, how you perform ritual, how you give sacrifice and offerings, etc. In the public cult, that's not the case. There are strict rules and different functions and roles, etc. But I think she can definitely calm down, because in her own spiritual personal practice, she can do it. She can decide for herself. She decides in her own home and her own private practice. That is also where a lot of people go wrong, because they bring this mentality with them. This is also the fault or the problem with social media, that if someone tells you, just do whatever you want, yes, definitely you can do that in your own private practice, but a lot of people bring this mentality with them into the public cult. And that's why we see all this unicorn worshipping, new agers, etc. We can't do whatever we want in public ritual, but in your private ritual, you can. I mean, as long as you know what you actually believe in. So if she was to still give her a good structure for either a private or a public ritual, a good modus operandi would be to first purify yourself. And if you're more than one, you have a procession to the sacred space, or where you're gonna perform this ritual or this worship. You light the sacred fire, can even be a candle. You unveil your idols, if you have that. You invoke the gods and spirits and ancestors. You give a statement of purpose. Why am I doing this at all? Then there are hymns and offerings. Then there's the reciprocal blessing from the gods. They give back to you. Then possibly also a divination, to where the gods give you advice in return for your offerings. And then you close the gates, and then you throw a party or a feast where you share or eat, take part of the oblations and libations. That is a good structure for a good well-ordered ritual. Then what was the question about kids?
Yeah, she just wanted to know what is the right age to introduce children to rituals. And do you know
Yeah.
of any rituals that would be simple enough for them to understand?
My take is that, the way I do is that I wouldn't do anything differently with kids, not at all. Because if we want to teach our children how to do things, the only way to do that is to show them the real deal. Either they're in or they're out. We decide that if they're too young, or if they haven't come far enough in their development or in their understanding. So either they're in or they're out. On the other hand, I wouldn't force my spirituality on children at all. They're free to believe and do whatever they want. But I'll always, my own daughter, for example, I always explain and show them whenever they're curious. Should they come to me and ask, or if they're curious when I pray in the morning, or When I do something, if they're interested, I explain, but I would never force anything on them. Children shouldn't do anything at all when it comes to spirituality until they've been mentored and actually know why we do these things and how we do them. So it's more about the parents rather than the kids. A child will automatically be spiritual, so it's our duty to guide and mentor them, make them take the first steps on this hero's journey, and they will actually come to the same conclusions as I did because of natural order. They will feel and understand the same things if they just listen to eternal natural order. If we take in our own ancestral tradition, the kids mainly stayed at home and in the village up until they were 8, so they mainly saw this domestic, private, and family practice up until they were 8, 9, something like that. So maybe that would be a good starting point, like around 8, 9, to if I am to give an advice, that 8, 9, maybe that's where kids are developed enough to understand what's going on. And then they had another rite of passage around 14 to 16 years old, after which they were initiated and given even more understanding. We've lost these rites of passage, which is very bad for children. But I would say that somewhere around 8 to 9, and then around 14 to 16 when it gets a bit more advanced. Yeah, that's my answer. A long answer.
Very nice. Beautiful answer, and thank you so much for that. Well, I think that wraps it up tonight. Thank you so much for joining us again, Bjorn. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Tusen tack.
Tusen tack.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Take care.